So the Nintendo eShop is really just an interesting sort of cesspool of a bunch of crap at this exact moment. There's a bunch of hentai games, there's a bunch of shit happening, but what nobody's really talked about is the weird shit that Nintendo themselves has put on the eShop, and honestly, there's a ton of them, and so today we're going to break it down into 3 different categories. That is, Nintendo published games that are strange and just sort of there for some reason, and honestly, some of them probably should have gotten a physical release, but we'll get to that when we get there. Also, Pokémon Company throws some shit over there, and HAL Laboratories, the Kirby team, is just throwing a slew of different crap onto the Nintendo Switch eShop, and so today we are going to break down every Nintendo published eShop title and why they're so freaking strange. So, the weird shit that Nintendo's put out on the system all the way back in 2017. Let's time travel back to 2017, everybody. Flip Wars. What the hell is Flip Wars? Okay, so at this point, there was not much coming out for the system, so everybody was pretty much excited for any new game. I mean, I remember being really excited for a Celestial Elephant game, right? Snake Pass was a huge thing, but I think something that Nintendo really wanted to take off that ended up pretty much doing nothing was Flip Wars, and by the gameplay here, you can see that it's just a really strange sort of like competitive party game where you're just these little guys and you go around ground pounding on different sort of like tiles to change it to your color to eventually bounce the other people out. It's a very strange, I guess, premise, and honestly it could be like sort of a good time, but selling this for $10 is kind of crazy, as that is literally all that there is to this game. Yeah, you can play with your friends in person, yeah, maybe that's kind of fun, but like, why would I do that when even at the time 1-2 Switch is probably a better co-op experience? And listen, I hate to say that, I hate to be the freaking bearer of bad news here, chat, because I don't like that game either. I think it's garbage. However, Flip Wars offers even less, and for $10, like, what are we doing? Maybe a $2 game, a little experience, like, I'm down with it, but what the hell? And honestly, out of all of the games that these random indie teams are publishing on the Nintendo Switch, why, Nintendo, did you pick Flip Wars to publish yourself? I mean, that's the strangest game I honestly could have thought of. I mean, something like Snake Pass, something like the Celestial, I gotta figure out that name. What's that elephant game? Leave it down in the comments below. Publishing something like that, even something like Fast RMX, publish one of those, because that does a lot more, I think, for the Nintendo Switch than Flip Wars. I mean, nobody plays, have you even heard of it? Let me know if you've heard of it, because I feel like nobody even talks about this game. Oh, also, by the way, we won't be touching on any of the 99 games, because I already made a video on that, so you can check it out up here, and those are not super, I don't know, I feel like they don't really qualify for this list, but just know that I already have a video about them that you can go check out, okay? The next one is into sort of similar vein, and that's Stretchers. And now Stretchers came out in like 2020, I believe, around that time. I'll fact check it to make sure, but this was another strange little one, but it looked a little bit more fun. Now Stretchers, the gameplay is basically you're these like little ER people, or EMT, emergency responders, and you're just kind of like running around and getting different people, throwing them on your little like gurney and going out. It's kind of like a physics-based puzzler type deal. It's pretty fun. Think something, I guess, like Fall Guys, but like there's a cooperative element, and then also like you're saving people's lives. So kind of fun, kind of weird, kind of random, but out of all of the weird little eShop titles, this one and the next one we're going to talk about, I think, are the ones that fit the most with Nintendo, because things like Party Animals, things like Fall Guys, I think make a lot of sense to see Nintendo's take on it, and while maybe we didn't get that, them publishing this and the other physics-based like puzzler thing, Good Job, is cool as well. And Good Job is basically like that style mixed with Overcooked, where you're just like playing as these little guys doing their day-to-day jobs and whatever, and it's interesting. It's nothing super special, but it's there. Both of these games, I believe Stretchers is like $25 and Good Job is $20, and the thing about this is I feel like Nintendo puts almost like a Nintendo tax on these when they publish them, and for some reason they think they can, you know, charge an exorbitant amount of money for what? Like, honestly, both of these games are pretty decent and they're pretty fun games, but they're not something that you should be spending over even $15 on. I mean, HAL Laboratories, we'll get into them later, but they are the kings of some cheap-ass experiences on the Nintendo Switch that are so much fun. But switching tones a little bit, one of the coolest things that Nintendo has put out is Jump Rope Challenge. Now, the entire premise of this game, and the only thing you do, is play as a bunny and use the Joy-Cons to jump rope. You can't even play it handheld. here's the thing. Why do I like this game? It's a weird little thing, right? Nintendo put this out during sort of like the middle of COVID. I believe the story was here. Don't quote me on this because I might be wrong. I believe the story was the developers were sort of bored and they just wanted to put out something, and they had made this thing and they thought it'd be a fun little thing to throw out in the eShop, and it was just a free little experience. And for, at the time, absolutely nothing coming out in the Nintendo Switch and absolutely nothing going on in the world, and everybody feeling, I guess, overwhelmed by obviously what is happening, as in COVID, it was a much needed and very welcome addition to the eShop, and one of the cutest things I think Nintendo has ever done. They've also repeatedly said over the years that this is going to be taken off the eShop at some point, and I would just recommend to download it before it gets yoinked off of there in case. I mean, I don't think it's like dire because they said that like a few years ago, and everybody sort of thought it was going to leave when like Mario 35 did and that kind of stuff, but it's still kicking it. So, I mean, honestly, still download it, I would say. It's a really stupid little game, but it's fun and it's super cute, and I think like little games like this that have almost some sort of story behind them are so charming, and it's so cool to just see that this was like a passion project thing for the developer. And obviously it's not like a passion project. This was a game that maybe took them a day or two to program, but I mean, it's cute, it's cool. I like what they did here. And the last one that's, you know, made by these other teams or whatever and published by Nintendo, and it doesn't have an overarching theme to it, I guess you could say, is Famicom Detective Club. Now, there's a caveat here because we do have a physical version that came in the collector's edition in Japan. I actually have it. Where are you at? Where are you at? Oh, it's right here. I don't know if you guys can see that. But, so I do have the physical cartridges of this, but, you know, it didn't actually ever come out in North America, and that was the only way you could get it, and there's not even a translation, like an English translation on those things, so I still did have to buy them digitally and play them through the digital means. And so this was a weird decision, I believe, because like Nintendo obviously sort of wanted these games to do well. I mean, we just got Emio, which did have a physical, albeit like barely any stores got it. I had to go on a goddamn hunt for this thing, but we ended up getting it, you know? I almost wonder in the future they give us like an actual full release where they do, you know, actually release those older two games, because they're not bad games, and honestly, some sort of double pack like that for the $50 that they charged, I think that'd be phenomenal. And I think that could honestly do great stuff and maybe even boost the numbers a little bit more, because collectors, you know, they'd be all over that. Those games are super strange because they're like remastered of very obscure visual novels from, of course, the NES and then or the Famicom, obviously, and they're brought over to North America. But as this was like the first official translation, there was some hype there, and I don't think they're bad games. I'm playing through Emio at this moment, and I have played both of those, and I think they're all right. I mean, they're not my favorite thing in the world. Like, I'd never play those over a Mario or whatever, but like at the end of the day, it's more content from Nintendo. It's these obscure little pockets of history that Nintendo is finally acknowledging, which is always really fun for fans, because even like the smallest Nintendo game that you think nobody cares about, there is a die-hard little fan base back there that if you say anything bad about it, you're gonna piss them off. So I've learned my lesson. Super Metroid is a good game. Metroid NES. But now it's time to get into the Kirby team just a little bit, and HAL Laboratories has put out a slew of different games for the Nintendo Switch that are digital only, and it's funny because it feels like almost every year there's some sort of major like eShop release from them, and it's kind of just like these fun little different game mechanics that they try out. Like, all of them are honestly pretty great in my opinion. So I believe this was 2018 when this came to the Switch, because I know it went to phones and stuff and mobile devices in 2017, but Part-Time UFO came out, and this is kind of a physics-based puzzle game where you like stack objects and things like that, and honestly, it is one of my favorite little hidden gems on the system. It's one of my favorite, you know, eShop only digital releases as well, because it's just so much fun to do, and it's like $8, and obviously like the mobile game stigma around that, like I had that for a while as well, but then once I finally got past that and actually just tried out the game, I realized it's an actually genuinely very fun game. I mean, there's even boss fights in this game, and tell me that this is the goddamn type of game to look like it's gonna have some boss fights at the end. I mean, it was surprising. It was super fun, and these puzzles and stuff, they all have so much personality and quirk to them. You can also like spot like the Kirby characters and stuff like that sometimes, because obviously, like I said, this is the same team who's been making all the Kirby games. So, and something I've always loved about Nintendo is that they give space, I guess, to these sort of smaller projects, and they really highlight them in a way to bring them, I guess, towards, you know, a bigger audience in some ways. And like, some of these types of projects are my favorite things that Nintendo does. Like, they all turn out pretty fun and random, and like, we'll get into another game, but that's one of my favorite games of all time, and it probably wouldn't have happened had Nintendo been like, oh, you can only do Kirby, and this team hadn't taken any risks. And so it's really nice to see them sort of branch out. And obviously, I've played Adventures of Lolo. I don't think we need to go back to that shit, but like, I say that as I just talked about, like, how there's Nintendo fans for every. I would love to be attacked by the Adventures of Lolo team. If you're out there, come the fuck at me, dude. But now, one of my favorite games ever is Box Boy plus Box Girl that came out in 2019, also by the HAL Laboratories team, and this is like a sort of puzzler type game where you're this little box and you spout different boxes off of you. I mean, it's one of my favorite things that came out in 2019, period, and it's got a surprisingly huge amount of content. I mean, you play the base game single player as Kirby, then you play as Cutie after you destroy that and you finish that whole thing, and now you're a rectangle, so it flips all the puzzles on its head. And then, do you want a co-op game? Because the best co-op game on the entire system might very well be this little co-op campaign that they had. It's like 5 hours long, but it's so freaking good, dude. You play as QC, I think is her name. I might be wrong, but her and then QB, and you're like rescuing their little kids everywhere. It's awesome. Like, it's such a good little puzzle game. It's so fun and digestible and easy to play and stuff, but like, some of the puzzles are genuinely difficult after a certain time, and you can always get through them if you think hard enough, obviously, but like, they're fun, and it just like lends itself very well, I think, to the Nintendo Switch, because it is such almost a portable experience, but it's a portable experience that needs to be shared, and that's what the Switch, funnily enough, like, kicks ass at. So yeah, I mean, Box Boy and Box Girl is one of my favorite things ever. So good. Next on the list is a game that came out, I believe, in 2018, Super Kirby Clash. Now, this is a free-to-play Kirby Boss Rush, I guess. They had a similar one on the 3DS. I think it was called Kirby Battle Royale, and it was just cool to finally see this come over to the Nintendo Switch. It's not everybody's cup of tea, and there were some microtransactions in it, but they weren't egregious, and you could play the game without them, you know, which is something I always appreciate from games with microtransactions in them. And, you know, if Nintendo is going to put microtransactions in a game, I don't think this is the worst one to do that for. It's fun, it's pretty chill, you're literally just going through the different bosses in Kirby's thing, and then you can sort of like upgrade your hub world, and if you check in a certain amount of days, you can get these golden apples, and then or not golden, just these apple things, and then you use those apple things to go on quests and whatnot. You can play like online with other players too, and so like in that way it's kind of cool, and just the fact that we didn't really have anything like that at that point on the Nintendo Switch, it was cool, and I remember playing it just a little bit. I mean, it's definitely not my thing, but like, if you're a die-hard Kirby fan, I can see people getting hours and hours and hours out of this. And yeah, I mean, it's just one of these small games that I'm definitely glad is on the system. Piggybacking off of that a little bit, sort of around, I believe it was also 2019, about a year after Smash Bros. Ultimate came out, Nintendo released Kirby Fighters 2, and Kirby Fighters 2 is definitely a different type of fighter. I mean, you have like a health bar and things like that, but it sort of takes a lot of inspiration in ways from Smash, and it's $20, and it's a decent fighter. Like, if I'm ever burnt out on Smash, I play Kirby Fighters 2, because it's kind of actually fun. It's a good little game, and I mean, there's all these different sort of classes that you can be, and Kirby plays, like I said, very similarly to how you do in Smash, and so like, it's pretty easy to sort of transfer over from that fighting game. And honestly, more fighting games from Nintendo is always welcome in my mind, especially these smaller sort of projects. Like, I love them, and some sort of other 2D fighter from Nintendo, it's just refreshing. And now, earlier we mentioned Fall Guys, we mentioned Party Animals, and Nintendo finally did their take on this with Kirby's Dream Buffet, and this is Kirby Fall Guys, basically. You're going through all these different courses, and, you know, you're going through obstacle courses, and then there's, like, big battles with these random things, and there's a lot of weird shit that happens in this game, but it's kind of fun. I mean, I wouldn't, like, go crazy on it, but for some reason, when this first came out, I was low-key addicted to it, and I had my boyfriend play it for the first time a couple days ago. Well, at this point, it was a couple months ago. He ended up really liking it, too. Like, it's a weird game that just kind of grabs you. It's a total bummer that they don't have, like, co-op? Maybe they do have co-op. Do they have co-op, chat? I felt like they didn't have co-op, which I think is crazy. There's definitely some features missing, but like you roll around a Kirby hub world just collecting strawberries. Low-key really fun, and I'd love to see like what they could do with some sort of game like this in the future. Like, I wouldn't even be opposed to like a freaking Mario one. Like, I'd love to see Nintendo throw their characters in these weird little things and just try different game genres out, because like I said, it was actually a very fun little time for however long it was relevant, you know? But now you've made it to the last part of the video, which is where we're going to talk about the Pokemon games on the Switch eShop. And before we get into that, I just want to ask you to click that little subscribe button, please, because I mean, you made it this far in the video, you might as well. I make banger content like this all the time. All right, let's get into Pokemon, though. So, first up, we got Pokemon Quest. This is the weirdest little thing, and it also dropped on Nintendo or on mobile devices, and it's basically this weird. I didn't like this game at all when it came out, but I remember people were sort of excited for it. I believe this was like 2018, maybe late 2017, but I just remember it was one of the first free-to-play games that came out on the system, and so it was sort of exciting at that point because you just wanted more stuff to do, but you kind of just like meander around this little area, and then you like can cook different meals for them. Like, I never understood the point of this game. If you guys are diehard Pokemon Questers, please let me know what the fuck you're supposed to do in it, and maybe it's just because I haven't played it in like actual years, but I don't know about it, you know? The art style is low-key cute, but they kind of look like little Minecraft guys, you know? I don't know. Tell me this doesn't look like Steve. Come on. Pokemon Unite. Now, Pokemon Unite is another one that I didn't really get the hype around for a while, but this is basically Pokemon's take on a MOBA game, and I don't think it's too bad. I mean, it is like, they have some sort of predatory, like, play-to-win mechanics in some ways where you really do have to spend some dough in this game, but you can also not and still have an okay time. I had a friend who was into it for a long. I honestly think he still is pretty into it. Infinite Or, if you're watching this, do you still play Pokemon Unite? I assume you do. He was really into it for a long time, and I played it a little bit with him and stuff, and I think it's a fine game, but like, it's definitely nothing that I'm gonna get super into, because like, it's not for me. I'm not a MOBA girl in the beginning. I've never played League of Legends. I really don't think that's the type of game that is gonna grab me, because like, I don't even really like games where you have to communicate with your team that much. Chat, I'm gonna be honest with you, that stresses me out. Like, even Fortnite, I play with my boyfriend sometimes, and I can't just sit there and call shit out. Like, it's happening in my head. I don't know what to say. Like, you guys know when I stream, I'm locked into some of these games sometimes. I can't just be out here spouting shit to you guys. I'll get lost in the same thought for like 6 minutes while I try to be like, what the fuck did you guys say? What to Sigma? While I'm still playing Donkey Kong. Like, it gets confusing to me, you know? And so, all of that, I think, really doesn't lend yourself very well to some sort of MOBA, but at the end of the day, a Pokemon MOBA is sick as hell, and I really think that they are doing some cool stuff with Unite. I'd love to see maybe a sort of evolution of it, or what it's going to look like in the future, because, like, it's a very cool little concept here, and I think out of everything that I could possibly dive into and get really into, Unite, out of all of it, is very, very plausible. But there's something about these free-to-play games and then paying for anything in them. Like, my Fortnite, chat, I talk about Fortnite a lot, and I do play it a lot. However, I grinded Fortnite every season for a while just to get the free V-Bucks so I could eventually buy the Battle Pass. And I have never, and I literally mean ever, spent a cent on Fortnite, ever. Now, my family, they have. My boyfriend, he has. Everybody's got to do what they've got to do, but I have this weird thing about free-to-play games and spending money on them. I don't like it. And last and definitely fucking least is Pokemon Cafe Mix. It's basically like this free-to-play puzzle game where you're just like spinning. I don't know, you just sort of like, you use your finger and you sort of like drag all the Pokemon together. Like, it sucks. I don't know who likes this game because it's not a great game, but like, I think for little kids, it's kind of fun because like you just connect all the Pokemon together, but like, this isn't a puzzle game. There's nothing here to think about. You just, oh, here's a Pikachu. Oh, here's another Pikachu. Oh, here's a Pikachu. How long can I make the Pikachu Wow. I didn't say a single word there. The Pikachu chain. Say that, chat. That's hard to say. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely not a game for me, and I think like Pokemon Cafe Mix, it's fine, and it's weird how much of an appearance that thing makes in every single Pokemon Presents, and also, like, the art's still super, super cute. I just wish the gameplay was even sort of better, or they could have that mode, and then, like, a harder mode where it's actually some sort of puzzle game? I don't know, chat. Also, all three of these, like, Pokemon free eShop games or Pokemon eShop games are all also mobile games, and they do have some of those predatory mobile game practices of all the shit that gets thrown into mobile games. So, like, that's the other thing, is you gotta be worried about that shit, and I don't know. Art style's super cute. It's just a bummer that's literally just wasted on this thing. But that is the wonderful world of Nintendo eShop games and the weird shit that Nintendo likes to publish on their systems. I mean, a lot of these were really exciting at their time, and a lot of them were really cool, and Box Boy is one of my favorite games ever, but then on the other hand, you have Pokemon Quest, which has no business even being a game. So let me know your thoughts and all of that down in the comments below, chat. If you liked the video, drop it a like, subscribe to the channel, check out this video, it's banger, it's vibe, it's a good time. I will see you over there. Also, people were like, Josie perpetually looks like she gets out of the pool, which is funny because I'm a lifeguard, chat. However, I just got out of the shower and I blow dried this shit for you guys.